Here, you can make up your own Tarzan and Jane story. At the end of each story segment, it's up to you to choose what happens next. If you want to hear your choices again, click on the curved arrow in the lower right corner of the screen. And if you want to exit the story, click on the X in the other corner. To get started, select the arrow in the center. Good luck!
Every once in a while, the excitement of life in the jungle takes a turn toward the routine. Take today. Turk is fishing in her favorite stump. The professor is busy at work in his lab. Ouch! And Tarzan is helping Jane adjust to life in the jungle. Routine. But one thing is out of the ordinary. Jane. She seems to be feeling a little out of her element lately. I guess this place can be overwhelming sometimes. And I know Jane doesn't want to feel like a burden to Tarzan. Of course, Tarzan will always be there to protect her. But as my buddy Turk always says, there's only so many times you can pull somebody out of the mud. As well as Jane is adapted to life in the jungle, sometimes she's as clumsy as an elephant, figuratively speaking, of course. But Tarzan doesn't mind. In fact, he'd be at her side right now if not for that plume of smoke there in the distance. Smoke. Did I say smoke? Oh, wait. Where there's smoke, there's more smoke. And where there's more smoke, there's fire, and fire is no friend to the jungle. What do you think Tarzan should do? Rush to investigate the fire? Or help Jane out of the mud? Oh, I can't look. Tell me when it's over. Wise choice. Tarzan swings into action, speeding toward the source of the fire. No time to even say goodbye to Jane. The decisions of an ape man aren't always easy. Tarzan swings through the vines, slides across trees, and leaps off waterfalls. Look at that fall. The judges give it a 10. I think I see the source of the smoke. It's Dumont's trading post. The post is on fire. Oh, the tragedy. I hope he's got insurance. Dumont and his staff are doing everything they can to put out the flames. But between you and me, things don't look good. Luckily, Tarzan arrives in the nick of time. He helps fill water buckets, rescues Hugo and Hoofed from the roof of a building, and frees a trapped customer from the clutches of peril. A hero if ever there was one. Finally, the fire is extinguished. Now, Tarzan has to decide what to do next. On one hand, he should probably go home and apologize to Jane for leaving her in the mud. On the other hand, he can't help but wonder what started the fire. What should Tarzan do? Go home and apologize to Jane? Or stick around and investigate the cause of the fire? Oh boy, am I glad I don't have to make the decision. Good choice. Jane would approve. So, Tarzan swings through the jungle back to the treehouse. It's been a tough day, and after a while, he decides to stop for a rest. Everyone needs a little me time now and then. Just as he's ready to move on, Tarzan notices a spider crawling across his chest. Personally, I don't care for spiders much, but Tarzan is used to bugs crawling all over him. He did grow up in the jungle, you know, but this time, the spider bites Tarzan on the chest for no reason. You can see why I generally avoid things that are small and wiggly. Tarzan does his best to ignore the pain as he continues back to the treehouse. Of course, Jane is happy to see him. Oh, the love of a good woman. But she wants an explanation as to why he swung off so quickly. It was rather rude of him to leave her in the mud. Just as he's about to tell her the whole story, she notices a red patch on his chest. Is it a burn from rescuing people from the fire? That would sure make sense. But unfortunately, the real story is far less heroic. Tarzan is kind of embarrassed to admit that his wound is actually just a spider bite. So, what should Tarzan do? Should he make up a heroic story to impress Jane? Or should he swallow his pride and admit that he was bitten by an itsy-bitsy spider? Oh boy, tough choices all around, huh? Oh, you're a clever one. It's always best to tell the truth. Tarzan decides to swallow his pride and admit he was bitten by a little spider. He doesn't think it's very serious, but Jane thinks it's better to be safe than sorry and insists that Tarzan allow the professor to examine the bite, which I think is wise. The professor knows a thing or two about a thing or two, and it's a good thing he does know all those things that he knows, because apparently the spider bite is more serious than it looks. And if they don't get an antidote within a few hours, Tarzan will pass out. Plop, right like that. The professor says the only antidote for the spider's poison comes from the nectar of a rare flower called a maboo-boo. To make matters worse, it only grows at the top of tall waterfalls. Naturally, Jane and Turk volunteered to go find a maboo-boo, but Tarzan doesn't want them to go out without him. I mean, what if they get hurt? What if they pick the wrong flower? What if they don't get back in time? Oh, there's so many what-ifs that could go wrong. So, what should Tarzan do? Should he encourage Jane and Turk to go get the flower without him? Or should he insist on leading the expedition to find the flower? Oh, this is a toughie, huh? Okay, and we're off. Jane and Turk set out on an expedition to find the rare maboo-boo flower. It's a long trek to the nearest waterfall with danger around every turn. Watch out! They eventually reach the waterfall and begin to climb to the top. I definitely wouldn't advise this on a full stomach. Once they reach the top, they find a flower that looks like the maboo-boo. But Turk isn't sure if it's the right one. The maboo-boo is supposed to be yellow with 3 green leaves, and this one only has 2. Jane reminds Turk that they don't have time to look for other flowers. This has to be the one. But finding it is one thing, and picking it is another. I can't watch. She's got the flower. Okay, so I watched. Of course, I never doubted the girl. And if I did, well, she doesn't have to know. We can keep that between us, right? By the time Jane and Turk get back to camp, Tarzan is very, very sick. He's glad Jane and Turk are safe and sound, but he's worried they didn't bring back the right flower. If he doesn't get the right nectar, well, I'm sorry, I just can't go there. But you need to decide where we go next. Should Tarzan trust that Jane picked the right flower, or should he play it safe and set off to find the maboo-boo flower himself? Ooh, that's another tough one. You and me think alike. We could be friends. Tarzan tells Jane that he has complete faith in her, and that if she thinks she brought back the right flower, then he thinks so too. It's so romantic. The professor makes a potion out of the flower using very precise and time-honored scientific techniques. Very precise. I hope this works, because Tarzan's looking a little pinkish right now. Jane helps him swallow the medicine. There it goes. Cross your fingers. Yes, it's working. The antidote is working. Woohoo! Tarzan's gonna be okay. Oh, boy, I love a happy ending. So, it looks like Tarzan's gonna survive the spider bite. Now, if only Jane forgives him for leaving her in the mud.